Welcome to the Feminist Wellbeing Podcast, my sisters. I'm your host, Stephanie Dodier, non-diet nutritionist, certified non-diet coach, and cognitive behavioral expert. And I've earned my PhD in diet culture. And at the age of 40, after graduating from 25 years of intensive study, I said no more. And I'm here to share my experience with you and guide you on how to feel damn good by reshaping your mind instead of your body. And in this podcast, we go beyond the food and fight diet culture and patriarchy by living powerfully. And today we're going to talk about feminism and nutrition, and I'm going to illustrate all of that through my own experience of changing my nutrition, changing some aspect of what I'm eating, when I'm eating, how I'm eating it. Right now, as we speak, since I came back from a month off of work where I went and spent 4 weeks in Indonesia, which, by the way, you can hear the story of all of that in podcast 398. And in that podcast, I said I was going to record a follow-up podcast to share with you some of the changes I'm making in my nutrition in my life and how I'm thinking about them. And this is what this podcast is about. And I want to get us started to first define gentle nutrition, because I know for some of you, you are perhaps new to the world of Beyond the Food. And I want to introduce you to my viewpoint on nutrition, which is drastically different than what we hear systemically on social media and on all the mass media out there talking about nutrition, where nutrition is this complex, heavy aspect of our life. And we need to put a lot of effort into it because it's complicated and it's macro and it's specific vitamins. And we have to think about these different aspects of the component of food. And then there's the keto, and then there's the carnivore, and then there's veganism. Like, can we all take a deep breath? I am a graduated nutritionist, and I can tell you I have a degree in nutrition that complexified nutrition to the level where I was an expert in it. And I could speak, and I could still speak if I wanted to today, about all this complexity around nutrition. But what I realized within the first really 2 years of my practice working with human being, not researching in a lab somewhere, but actually talking about nutrition with human being, is that it doesn't need to be that complicated. In fact, the complexity of nutrition in today's world leads to individual not being able to apply in real life. And if they do, they apply for short term. It's not lifelong habits around eating that they're able to implement because it's too complex and it's too restrictive. And I know probably many of you are aware of the term diet culture, which is the system of belief that put thin body in a platform of highest value as something that everyone should be and ought to work hard towards by the mean of dieting, diet culture. So it's an entire system of belief that put people in thin body in a higher status than other folks. Well, there's also wellness culture, right? And this is something we've put a name on as an industry, the non-diet space, most recently. And thank to Christy Harrison, who wrote a book on that. But wellness culture is the same phenomenon, but instead of assigning more value to people who are thin, it's also people who are healthy, who are practicing wellness to this extensive degree of complexity, completely detaching them from their body and their guidance from their inner body towards well-being. So the word gentle nutrition is what I want to call feminist nutrition, where we say, okay, we acknowledge that all these systems are there, that diet culture is there, that wellness culture is there, that nutrition science is there, and we are still going to trust ourselves first. We're going to think of nutrition not just through numbers, studies, and science on things that are external to us, but we're actually going to bring that into our own power as individual, as women, and say, what is good for me? What makes me feel well, me? How does my unique body interact with certain food? What brings me joy? And that's a key component of gentle nutrition, is satisfaction and joy and recognition of our individuality as each one of us. Not only in our food choices and what makes us satisfied, but our upbringing, our culture, our ethnicity, right? Someone that was raised, I'm just thinking in Indonesia, where I was for a month, versus someone in Europe, which is my culture comes from. Like in Indonesia, you barely can find bread anywhere because they don't cultivate flowers, they don't cultivate wheat. What they cultivate is rice. Like literally there's rice field everywhere. So someone that was raised in Indonesia under a Balinese culture will have different food that will make them feel good, and that will bring them joy, happy memories from their childhood. And they will have a different taste palette versus me, who's European and was raised on bread and wheat. I love bread. Don't take my bread away from me. I will eat rice, but I want bread. I need bread in my life. But when you think about diet culture, wellness culture, and nutrition science, it disregards all of that. And in fact, we have to be honest with each other. The nutrition research that we currently have as data point is white supremacist. It propel on a platform cultural food eating pattern that are from white people. Nutrition science, just like most medical science, is racist. It's made by white people, studied on white people, mostly men. Don't kid yourself, most medical science is created, tested on men, not on women, right? We've heard about that, but it's the reality. Same thing with nutrition. It is mainly American, mainly tested on white people from white Eurocentric background, and completely disregard any other culture, an ethnicity group, abilities group. Like, it's very oppressive. When I think about feminist nutrition, I'm taking all of that back and says, what do you want to eat? What makes you feel good? And then you get to look back where you came from, what kind of food you were raised, and then connect with your body to guide you in your food choices. So in a way, we can think of gentle nutrition as an approach to nutrition that takes into account both science, like brain. There's a part of gentle nutrition that is logic. No matter where you are in the world, where you were born, and which background on ethnicity or ability you have, fruits and vegetables are in most diet around the world. and they're a pretty good idea to most people who have the biology to digest it, to eat it. Like there's some ground rule, and we'll go through them in just a minute, of gentle nutrition that is applicable to mostly all human beings. And it recognizes that you are unique and that your body wisdom can guide you, if you listen to it, to the choice that are going to make you feel well. It teaches us that all foods are neutral, gentle nutrition, and that emotion and pleasure are part of eating as well. They're not to be shamed, they're not to be disregarded. Food is a pleasure and emotional experience. And we have the equipment within us. We have hunger signal, we have fullness signal, we have satisfaction signal inside of us to guide us, plus all of our cultural, spiritual background. So I want to walk you through the way that I teach nutrition, at least in my program, and the way we go through it with my client. Gentle nutrition to me has 4 principles. Like, of the 4-year degree that I have in nutrition, I boiled it down to 4 principles, and most of my colleagues in the non-diet space will agree to those 4 principles, and they teach the same 4 principles. Okay, so this is not just me, it's globally in our niche, how we think, teach, and practice nutrition. The ground rule to gentle nutrition is having enough to eat. We don't go anywhere talking about any other aspect of nutrition if you are not filled, if you are not fulfilling your hunger signal. Like if you're not eating enough food, there is no point of going anywhere else. And eating enough food is not from a formula, from a machine of macro or for weighing your food. Eating enough is from your hunger and fullness signal, which then leads me to balance. So we do know by nutrition science that there's 3 macronutrients. Okay, protein, fats, and carbs. We do know that all food elements are comprised of a different ratio of those 3 elements, that the body has a system to digest protein, it has a system to digest fat, and a system to digest carbohydrate. So when we think about bringing an eye on our nutrition, we want to have a balance of those 3 micronutrients: protein, fats, and carbs. I'm not going to get into the what is what is where. I will assume that you know what a fat is, what a protein is, and what a carbohydrate. So when we think about gentle nutrition, it's a healthy balance between these 3 macronutrients, not favorizing one over the other, which pretty much throws out the door all the current wellness diet, think carnivore, keto, like shaming carbohydrate, or low fat diet that shames fat. Like we don't shame any macronutrient in balance. The third element of gentle nutrition is variety. We want to bring a variety of all these macronutrients in our diet, right? So think variety of fruits, of vegetables, of proteins, and of fats. What that does is it brings a nutrient variety and diversity. So we don't have to think about, did I eat enough vitamin B? Did I eat enough vitamin C? If you eat a variety, you bring all kinds of different fruits and vegetables and grains and protein in your diet, you will by default eat a variety of vitamins and minerals and other cofactors. And the last element of a gentle nutrition or a feminist approach to nutrition is individual food. Think of a pyramid here, enough being at the bottom, balance, variety, and at the top, individual food. Now, most people that are what's considered to be generally in a state of well-being state of health do not need to focus on individual food. Individual food comes in when you have a specific health status, health condition, health symptoms, a particularity about you that require, example, more vitamin C, or you have a deficiency in iron for whatever reason, and you need to be mindful, careful of ensuring you have enough sources of iron in your diet. To most people, it's not a worry. If that's you, if you know that about you, then that's where you consult with a nutrition expert, dietitian, and then you get a specific assessment for you and specific recommendation for you. So to most people, to like 90% of the world, the 3 principles of gentle nutrition we need to think and focus on: am I eating enough? Am I eating a balanced approach to protein, carbs, and fat? And am I eating a variety of each of these, protein, fats, and carb? That's it, that's done. And then you connect with your body, with your bodily sensation, to see which food, how much, and when is good for you. I'm going to illustrate that with some of the changes I'm making right now to show you how you can think about that. I want to touch on something really important before we get there. Earlier, I talked about we need to eat enough food. I want you to think about this. Do you have a clear understanding, a good practice of the basic of eating behavior? Do you know when you're hungry? Can you feel your hunger cue? And do you have a respect for your hunger cue in your life, whereby when you start to feel hungry, you're starting to take action towards feeding yourself? Do you know when you're full? And do you know, are you capable, able, willing to stop eating when you're full? And typically the reason why people don't stop is because they're on a restriction relationship to food, and they're overeating and binging past their fullness cue because they think, I'll never have access to food again, or I'll go back on my diet. So do you have a good relationship to fullness, whereby sometimes you'll overeat? You're like, I'm full, but it's too damn good. I'm gonna keep eating. And you're totally fine with that. There's no shame. You just deciding that this time you're gonna eat more, and that's all there is. But most of the time when you're full, you stop eating because you know if you're hungry again in 4 hours, you can go and eat some more. There's no time relationship to food by you only need to eat at these time or how much of food you need to eat. So are you having a good relationship with your when I'm eating, when I'm stopping eating? Do you have a respect for what makes you feel satisfied? Right? Do you eat food that you love eating that make you feel satisfied? Or do you eat against a list of food that you should be eating? And then the last piece of the basic of eating is, why am I eating? To most people, they'll tell me, like, I'm eating because I need to eat. Sure, that's one of this, but are you eating, are you making food choices because it's going to give you some shrinking of your body, some control over your body? Are you eating because you've been told you should eat this way? Why are you eating? Why are you making your food choices that you are making? What's your motivation behind your eating food choices? So before we start thinking about nutrition, all of those basics must be in place. Think about riding a bike. I was giving this example in a class that I was teaching 2 weeks ago, or last week actually, how to coach nutrition, make good money, and help people. And I was giving the example of riding a bike. So if you've never ridden a bike before and you say, I want to learn how to ride a bike, am I going to give you a 18 speed bike with very sensitive brake handle? Like, I'm going to give you a $2,000 bike that has like so many aspects of complication to it, like the speeds, the sensitivity of the brake, like a very thin saddle? Or am I going to give you the most comfortable basic bike and probably put like baby bike wheel on the back, those little wheels that give you more stability, and teach you how to ride a bike on that bike versus the professional bike? Logic says, no, I'm going to start on the basic bike, very simple, that doesn't have gear, that have like pedal brake. Makes sense, right? Once you learn how to ride a bike, you become comfortable, more confident. You can ride in public, not get into an accident. Then you're going to start upgrading, if you wish, the complexity and the perhaps abilities of your bike. Same thing with nutrition. If hunger, fullness, and satisfaction and why you eat are not clear and clean and neutral, there is introducing nutrition into that will just make it a complete mess. And that's the current state of wellness and diet culture. Gentle nutrition comes in and says, no, we're going to clean all that up and we're going to make it really simple. So with that in mind, understand that I'm sharing my personal nutrition changes right now as someone who's been an intuitive eater for now close to 7 years. I'm a professional in that space, and I am body neutral. I no longer associate food to the size of my body or of my health. Like, it's completely detached on all aspects. It's neutral. So here's a couple of things that I'm implementing in my life. Number one, oatmeal is life for me. Like, literally, oatmeal, the grain oatmeal, makes my digestive system so freaking happy. Here's what happened when I went to Indonesia. In Indonesia, oatmeal is not part of their food. They probably don't grow oatmeal. They are not eating oatmeal. They eat the grain rice. So when I went there, by default, I stopped eating oatmeal, because one of the things that I do when I travel is discover the country, the culture, through food. So I started to eat local food. And then within 10 days, realized that my bowel movement weren't as regular. They weren't as smooth. I'll skip all the other details. I'm like, interesting. What has changed in my life in the last 2 weeks that could cause that? And I went through the list of things. Yeah, more stress, traveling, but I was drinking as much water. I'm like, oh, when I'm home, I eat oatmeal every day. And I'm like, oh, okay, now it's been 2 weeks. Let me go to a Western health food store in Indonesia, find oatmeal, and start eating oatmeal and see what happened. Well, bingo, bango. I started to eat like small 1 cup of oatmeal a day. And then my digestive system was thriving in Indonesia. I'm like, I want to have oatmeal in my life. Not because, it's neutral. It doesn't, I don't hate it. I don't love the taste of oatmeal because oatmeal is pretty tasteless. I'm like, okay, I want and need to have oatmeal every day because I want to have a happy, non-bloated, easy to go digestive system. Okay, how can I make this oatmeal situation fun and interesting to me? I'm like, oh, bring more fruit in the oatmeal, like put condiment in the damn oatmeal that I love, that are going to make me feel happy and looking forward to eat. So Now I eat a cup of oatmeal. Like I don't measure it, but like a bowl, approximately a cup of oatmeal. And then I have fun with the condiment on top, like fruits. Sometimes I put sugar, sometimes I put honey. And it allows me to have tasty oatmeal and a happy digestive system. Here's another thing that I realized because of Indonesia and following the culture over there. I realized that I was drinking too much coffee. I realized that I couldn't say I was like having anxiety because of coffee, but when I drank like perhaps the third or fourth cup of coffee in the day at home, I started to feel there was a tension in my upper body that I would feel every day that I thought was because of work, like stress-based tension. And the whole time I was in Indonesia, I wasn't there. I'm like, is it because I'm more relaxed? So is it because of the coffee? So I came back home. I went back in my routine of work and maintain only approximately 2 cups of coffee in the morning. Like when I wake up and when I eat breakfast, and then that's it. And guess what? That tension that I used to feel in my inner body, my inner chest, gone. Like it's no longer there. I'm like, okay, that's the trick. Like 2 regular sized cup of coffee for me a day, early in the morning when I wake up, makes me happy because I love the taste of coffee. I love drinking my coffee when it's quiet in the morning. And it needs to stop there so I don't feel that anxiety in my body, because that's what happened in my body when I drank a third and a fourth cup of coffee. Here's another piece. The timing or when I'm eating my meal. When I went to Indonesia, my routine there, the way that I interacted with food was I ate a large meal in the morning because that's what was served in the restaurant, like a big, not a breakfast food meal, like a regular meal, like rice, proteins, and vegetable. They don't have, by the way, in Indonesia and most non-American culture, non-Westernized culture, they don't have breakfast food. That just doesn't exist there. It's just food. So there's no breakfast with breakfast food. There's just another meal in the day. So I ended up eating like what we would consider in Western culture, like a dinner or lunch for breakfast. And man, did I feel good. Like I would eat my breakfast in the morning, my meal in the morning, and then I would be like 4, 5, 6 hours without feeling hunger and feeling satisfied. And at home, that's not the case. Like usually I eat and then in the morning, breakfast food, oatmeal, and then 2, maybe 3 hours later, I'm starving. And then like now it's 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning. It's not breakfast, it's not lunch. And like, what am I going to eat? Am I going to eat a snack? Am I going to eat this? And what happened in Indonesia, I didn't snack. I just went completely from meal to meal to meal, being totally satisfied, totally happy as far as my digestive system and my inner hunger and fullness. Everybody was happy. Everything in me was happy. I'm like, I need to do this at home. So you just heard me say I have oatmeal when I wake up in the morning, like a cup with fruits, a little bit of sugar, and then probably an hour to an hour and a half later, I have a full meal. And I've been doing that now for 2 weeks, and I'm the happiest person ever. Like I'm feeling more satisfied with food than I've ever been. Now, how long that's going to be, I don't know, folks. And that's the key with gentle nutrition. Right now, who I am as a human being is happier, more satisfied, and therefore a better well-being because I'm eating 2 quote unquote meal in a day and an oatmeal when I wake up in the morning. Like that's currently me. What is you? Like if you let go of all the rules of nutrition, if you let go of the clock, I got to eat lunch at noon, I got to eat dinner at 6, and I got to eat breakfast when I wake up. Like if you let go of all those rules, what is you? What would make you satisfied? So if you come to my house right now and you stay with me, by the time 9 or 9:30 in the morning, we will have a full-on meal with like the other day I had leftover steak, I had a piece of bread, I had rice, and I had cooked vegetables, all left over. Now, this is already something. I'm not going to put that in the bucket of nutritional change I'm making, but this I realized probably 5 years ago. Meal prepping is life for me. I used to meal prep to control my food. Now I meal prep just because it's so goddamn easier for me. So I'm single, I live alone in my house. When I cook, I typically cook a recipe for 2 to 4 people. I always have one leftover meal, sometimes up to 3. So I cooked steak the past weekend. On the grill, there was 4 steak. I ate 1. And the 3 other steaks went chopped off in a Tupperware container in the fridge. And that's what I ate for breakfast with leftover cooked vegetables and leftover, I think it was rice and a piece of bread. 9:30 in the morning. Like, screw the rules. Screw to what is supposed to be. What is you? Here's another thing. Some of you may relate to that. I have acknowledged that I'm getting older. My digestive system is getting to be less efficient, and that I need to be more mindful what I eat before bed. I used to eat anything before bed and nothing would wake me up. Well, that is no longer the case. Deep fried food are not bad food for me. They're just food. I can have them anytime I want, how much I want. There's no rule around that. But when I exercise my freedom around deep fried food, a couple of hours before bed, I'm going to suffer all night. So I can have it if I want to, but it doesn't make me feel good when I eat it before bed. There's something about the laying down position and my gallbladder that makes it a very bad experience. So I now have acknowledged that deep fried food needs to happen in the morning. If I have it at night, I'm going to somehow regret it in the middle of the night. What is yours? What are your things? That's where gentle nutrition brings us, in a space where you can create your own customized approach to food that makes you feel good. That is a blend of both knowing protein, fats, and carbs, but at the same time in choices that makes you feel satisfied. That's how I'm thinking, living, and teaching nutrition in my world. If you want to get into that, if you're a professional, you're like, well, that's such an interesting take. You can think about or consider the non-diet coaching certification. You can think about Undiet Your Life, which is a simplified base course. And Undiet Your Life is perfect for all the humans. That you are a professional, that you are a regular woman who just want to let go of diet culture and wellness culture, just want to what do I need to do? Undiet Your Life. If you want to use that in your professional career, non-diet coaching certification. I hope this helps you. I love you, and I will see you on the next podcast. Hey, my sisters, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, you have to come and check out our feminist mentorship masterclasses and our internationally recognized non-diet coaching certification on our website at www.stephaniedote.com/shop. This is where you can get the individual coaching and the support to take the concept taught on the podcast to the next level, embrace our well-being in a way that will expand our collective freedom and power. Come and join myself and other women to learn how to reshape your mind, not your body. I'll see you there.